But Moses said to God, "If I come to the Israelites and they ask me your name, what shall I say to them?" Commissioner Bronwyn and I have had the privilege of living in different parts of the world in our service as Salvation Army officers. Just about everywhere we have lived, people have struggled with the pronunciation of our names, Bronwyn and Lyndon. We have both experienced many variations, particularly Bronwyn. Why do we persevere? Because we understand that relationships start to change when you know someone's name. In the early chapters of Exodus, we learn that Israel has become an oppressed people. The new Pharaoh enslaves the people of Israel. We also learn that Moses, who was saved from death in the river Nile, has to flee for his life. He had intervened in a fight and recognized that his life was in danger. One day, Moses leads his flock of sheep beyond the wilderness to the mountain of Horeb. Suddenly, he noticed something that stops him in his tracks. A bush is in flames, but the bush isn't consumed by the flames. Out of curiosity, Moses draws closer to the bush when suddenly he hears a voice say, "Moses, Moses." Now that God has the attention of Moses, he says, "Come, I will send you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt and worship me on this mountain." God calls Moses to help liberate God's people. God calls Moses to lead his people. Moses hears the divine voice from the burning bush, but he has his questions, his concerns, his objections. Not surprising. What if the Israelites don't believe me or listen to me? "Oh Lord, I have never been eloquent. How can I convince them that you have sent me?" The more important question Moses asks, however, has to do with God's identity. If I come to the Israelites and they ask me your name, what shall I say to them? Here is the heart of the conversation between God and Moses. God knows Moses by name. Now Moses begins to learn God's name, and Moses will learn the meaning of God's name as he leads the people of God. This encounter between God and Moses at the burning bush invites us to think about God's calling to us. First, let's be clear that God calls all of us to a life of mission. God calls us into different vocations where we can help to express this mission. God also calls some of us to the vocation of leading God's people. And this includes officership within the Salvation Army. So what can we learn about God's calling from this story? Notice that curiosity put Moses in a place where he could hear God's voice. What sights evoke your curiosity such that God is drawing you to him? Notice also that God welcomes the questions and the uncertainties of Moses. I wonder what these questions might sound like today. But God, I'm a person of different colour and race than most Salvationists in this nation. How will I be accepted? But God, how can I, a millennial, lead baby boomers into your deeper salvation experience? But God, how can I lead when I have so little experience in leading others? Know this today. God welcomes our questions. Notice, however, that while Moses doesn't know God's name at first, God knows Moses. God knows the courage Moses has in confronting injustices. God knows the sense of responsibility that Moses has for his flock of sheep and his people. God calls us with our own personalities, character, and gifts in mind. This God of liberation, this God of salvation, works through ordinary women and men to accomplish his greater purposes. People like Moses, people like you and me. I can't help but think that there are many Salvationists who are having this kind of conversation with God. As you have approached the burning bush, you have sensed God's holiness. As you sense God's calling upon your life, the questions and objections come fast and furious. Of course they do. But God knows you. God knows you by your name. And God invites you to know His name, to discover an intimacy with God through the experience of leading God's people. As you seek to understand God's calling upon your life, may you be assured that He knows you by your name, and He invites you to learn His name through your calling. May God bless you.